Hello YouTube. Making this little video about a very unusual and unique and strange problem I've been having with my Honda Element. It's an 06 Element, but you know, they're all pretty much the same. It's a manual transmission with all-wheel drive, and I won't beat around the bush. I'll just get right into it. Basically, I bought this car as mechanic special, and one of the few major problems it has is the shifter. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and reverse. You know, there it is, reverse. But then you can keep going, and there's more neutral. There's this sort of lost level, almost where, if you could imagine where like a 6th and 7th gear would be if I had it. So yeah, I mean, again, that's 5. Past that, this extra space, it's really bizarre. I can be going like 80 miles an hour, put the shifter in here, let the clutch out, and it's in neutral. You know what I mean? Or I could put it like that to put it in reverse, and that's not reverse, that's more neutral. So imagine my neutral is shaped like a T on its side. I've got this sort of upside down realm where I've got extra space, and it makes it tricky to drive. It's really hard to put in 5th gear in reverse because you kind of have to just know where it is. So I kind of thought this was a few things. Again, I won't go too much into detail now. I kind of want to just cut to the chase. But I finally figured out what it is. So let's go under the car. It's like 110 degrees right now. I live in southern Arizona. Let's go into the car. So there's been a lot of hack mechanic stuff. Sorry, my hand keeps getting in the way. I'm really bad about that. Hack mechanic stuff going on here. But so you have your shift selector here. It's easier to see from the top, but basically, you know, when you shift your gears, you've got this thing which goes from the cables down to the shift selector, which is this thing I'm pointing at, and then that goes down, and then this object sort of interacts with the shift forks, moves, you know, move your car in and out of gear. So there's this bolt right here that's supposed to sort of be like a pin that goes through the shift selector, and it's supposed to restrict its movements. It took me a really long time to figure this out, but for some reason, the previous owner or mechanic that worked on it took this special bolt out and put in this regular bolt. Now, what's supposed to be in there, man, it's hot, is this 24433 PH8000. And the bolt looks like this. So you've got same thread, but it has this extra piece appendage, and that's supposed to go through the shift selector. So let's put that in. I'll tighten it all the way down later, if I can put it in. Might need to put it in neutral here. May even need to cut the video and take the selector out or something if I... Oh, no, there it goes. So let's just hand tighten it for now. So the way I figured this out is I was kind of at my wit's end trying to figure out what was up with this thing. I actually have had this transmission out and taken apart. I'll get to more of that later. And I kind of thought, oh, maybe it's the shift selector itself. And I took that out, and when I realized that I could take it out without taking this bolt out, I was like, oh, that's what's going on here. The bolt's not holding it in place. So I got the proper bolt in there. Let's see what goes on now. Boom. No more extra space there. Stops, goes right into fifth. It took me way too long to figure that out. But if you're having that problem, you know, it's extremely unlikely that this exact same situation would happen on another car. I have no idea why someone put that wrong bolt in there. But since I've kind of gotten the meat and potatoes out of this video out of the way, I can go into more detail with this car if you want to stick around. Basically, about this is a mechanic special, and it looked like it had a rear main seal leak, and I got a really good deal on it because of that. I was like, cool, rear main seal is like 20 bucks. So I got the part ordered, and I brought it home, and you know, it's sitting there leaking on my driveway, and I kind of put my finger on it and give it on the fluid, give it a smell, and I'm like, you know, that's actually Honda MTF, that's manual transmission fluid. And you know, before you go judging me on why I couldn't tell the difference, Honda manual transmission fluid is really thin and of a low viscosity, and it's kind of the same color as oil. So at first glance, yeah, it looks like oil's leaking, especially from that area in between the engine and transmission. Yeah, that's, you're gonna assume, because it's just more common, that it's a rear main seal leak. Honda transmissions don't really leak from the input shaft seal. So anyway, I've got it in my driveway, and I'm like realizing it's manual transmission fluid, and I'm thinking, well, it's weird and uncommon, but I guess it could be the input shaft seal. So I get one of those ordered, as well as a rear main seal, and I take the transmission out of the car, and what I see kind of shocks me. So there's a brand new clutch in there, which is of course toast already because it's soaked in oil. But then also the transmission case, in the area all around, say this is the output shafts on the transmission, the area all around it is just covered in JB weld. So behind where the clutch goes, it was just covered in JB weld, and it was obviously still leaking. The shoddy repair did not solve the problem. So my assumption is the dude was going to do a new clutch, whether it was a tech or the previous owner. They probably had it up on a lift, so the transmission was high up, and I'm assuming what happened was they dropped the transmission and cracked the case, and then they JB welded it to fix it, quote unquote fix it, which is just ridiculous, and then you know, put it back together and sold it to me under the premise that it had a rear main seal leak. When I was like, oh, it's got a rear main seal leak, the guy was like, yeah, totally. And then he actually said, well, you know, I put a new clutch in there, so I could have, it's possible that I just overfilled the transmission. And I was like, no, that's not what happens on these cars. That should have been a red flag. But I ordered a new transmission case, 200 bucks from eBay, just the one half, and got it all swapped over, put it in. And then I didn't see any problems on the inside of the transmission. So I put it all back together, and I still have that weird problem. And the fact that I didn't notice that bolt was wrong was because it was my first time rebuilding, taking apart and putting back together, specifically a Honda K-Series transmission. So I didn't really realize that that was supposed to be some specific bolt. It wasn't until I took the shift selector out and I watched some other YouTube video of a guy doing that, and he was like, you have to take this bolt out or the shift selector won't come out. And I was like, oh, that's what's going on. So why that bolt was wrong, why that was even taken out in the first place, it's totally weird to me. But I guess it's also possible when the transmission was damaged that maybe the shift selector was crunched down and then it like sheared off the end of that bolt, and then he just replaced it with a normal bolt and sent it, which is just totally nuts. But anyway, I'm put a new clutch in, new rear main seal, some struts, some bushings, some ball joints. So even with all the work I did, I'm still way ahead on this car because, you know, these things are hard to find and pretty pricey. It's basically almost done. Just got to get an alignment done. But anyway, if you have, I can't imagine anyone else is going to have this problem, but if you have that problem where you've got extra space, tons of extra slop around your fifth gear and reverse, check that bolt. Or barring that, maybe the shift selector itself has a problem. Either way, take those things out, take that out, and give it a look, because in my case it was something extremely off the wall and extremely unusual, and I kind of had to think outside of the box to figure it out. So anyway, Thanks for watching. It occurred to me to maybe make an additional video showing the case that I took out, just so you can kind of see what I was dealing with here. So yeah, I was able to just find a transmission case on eBay for $200, which is a pretty decent deal, because anything K-series manual transmission related is pretty hard to find now. But there's the JB weld. It's not really as much as I remember, but it's there. It's still wet. It's still leaking. Just ridiculous that someone did that. I mean, you have it out at that point. Like, why do all that effort to take the transmission out? It's not super easy on the Element, like compared to an old Civic, so why do all that work and then do a shoddy repair on top of it? Makes no sense. So anyway, there's that.